Guys, what's happening?
What's up?
Hey guys.
How's it going, Alex? How's it going, Mike?
Excellent.
All right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I love the finish line in your basement, Emilio. Looking fantastic.
That's right. That's right. This is where it happens. This is where greatness happens for my kids.
That's excellent. I see your stacks of research books over your shoulder as well.
Yeah. This is it's the glory of an unfinished basement with all I haven't read anything. It's just to make myself feel better.
Well, I think
like
the audience is
people
quickly
with the libraries of volume 1 through 30. Like you don't even know volumes of what.
Yeah. Every time my kids come down there, they keep asking me the same question. Daddy, have you read all those books? So, yeah.
Well, they are going to realize, just like our audience is quickly, that you've actually done a tremendous amount of reading that got us to where we are today. So, hey everyone, we're Project Rework. I'm Mike.
I am Alex.
And I'm Emilio.
So the three of us started what we call Project Rework. The goal of this project is to help you rethink the way you think about work. Alex, can you catch our audience up on a little bit more details on what we're after here?
Yeah. So the idea behind this is that we're all trained to do very specific things, whether it's sales or marketing or communications or finances, but being effective in a workplace requires so much more than that. So Emilio over here, I think if I point this way, that's to working. You. Loves reading really long academic articles about workplace research or taking psychological research and applying it to the workplace. And there's a lot of information in there that's super helpful to all of us, but we don't, most people aren't reading things like that. So we're taking that and distilling it to help all of us thrive in the workplace. And back in the end of 2019, we were about to launch the Project Rework podcast. We recorded a whole series on what we're calling job crafting, about how to find joy in a job you hate. And then coronavirus hits. And the challenges that we're all experiencing related to work right now are unique. And they're different than what we worked on back in December. So we've shelved that. And we've now been asking ourselves, Project Rework is probably more important than ever because everyone is rethinking their work right now, whether it's you've lost your job and you need to think where you head next, or you've kept your job, but it obviously looks drastically different. So what should we be talking about? And that's the question we've been asking each other. Do we talk about remote work? Do we talk about building in healthy work-life balance when it's all muddled right now because we're working from home for the first time? So we've been digging into some of those topics, and where we landed was quite surprising to me. So Emilio, why don't you're our researcher. You got us to this topic actually. So why don't you tell us where we landed and what we're kicking this off with?
Yeah, no, that's good. Even to add, you were saying we were, kind of trying to figure it out. I think it's more than that. I think it's what we were experiencing. I know for me, it was, I think a lot of it came from the angst I was experiencing, right? As the pandemic happened, for a lot of us got thrown into remote work without, not by choice. And that in and of itself started kind of a whole new rhythms, right? That we were not used to. But one of the things I think that stood out for me is the concept of affirmation. And now more than ever, right? As this pandemic's happening, now companies and organizations are struggling and teams are struggling everywhere. I've realized that everyone has this higher level of anxiety going on, yet at the same time, because companies are struggling, they still need to find a way to be productive, and they need to find a way to be effective. And so what you you generally want to do, what you're predisposed to do at that time is like, let me focus on making sure that as everyone's, working remotely, that they're still being productive. Let me make sure that I'm holding them accountable. Let me make sure that they're still doing the work that they need to do, right? And that they understand the importance of it. And as true as some of that is, I think if you have that mindset going into eliciting the best out of people, for me, the research and the evidence doesn't show that that's probably the best way, is to really focus solely on, kind of this accountability concept. And what the evidence is showing is that it's really more about affirmation, right? It's more about recognizing the situation that people are in, right? And kind of engaging in empathy, meeting them where they're at. And then once you do that, really affirming them for the work that they're doing, the excellent work that they're doing. First, the fact that they're able to still focus, the fact that they're able to still run an effective meeting remotely that they maybe never did before. Whatever the case is, right? Recognizing excellent work where it's at, and then being very specific about their actions or things that they're doing really well, and providing that feedback and really building them up, encouraging them, because that's really what they need right now, and that's how you're going to elicit the best out of your team members, which is what's going to help organizations survive and stay solvent during this time. So it's that's where the concept of affirmation came in, and then there's other concepts we can talk about later, and we wrote an article about it, in regards to what type of affirmation, what does that mean, but in the end, it's really just kind of topsy-turvy. We just really wanted to communicate a message that says, hey, for those who are working, not just leaders, but anyone who's working on a team, really kind of be aware, be sensitive, be cognizant to people's situation, because their home life is now relevant to you, right? And because they're bringing that to meetings. And so now, what do you do to be very aware of the excellent work people are doing, affirm them where they're at, and you'd be surprised how that's going to speak volumes to them.
Yeah, and a lot of that really resonates with me. I know I felt a lot of the same things you're describing, Emilio. I remember as all this, the pandemic first started spreading across Europe, I was looking forward to a trip to Las Vegas for March Madness. And then all of a sudden, the first conference says, we're playing the games, but no fans.
I was supposed to be in China for the Formula One race.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. No. Yeah, really in the thick of it. And then all of a sudden, in a matter of 36 hours, it went from, yeah, I'm really excited for this trip, to holy crap, Las Vegas is closing. Like, to me, that's a sign of, like, things are really bad if Las Vegas is closing. So I went through a lot of that adjustment as well. I got an email from my company over that weekend saying office is closed until further notice. If you need to grab anything, come in on Monday and grab it. Otherwise, we're working from home. And, a lot of what you're saying of being kind of predisposed to wanting to micromanage. I have a staff of people working for me who traditionally don't work remotely, and I can stop by, check on them throughout the day. And then now all of a sudden there's this extra autonomy that comes along with working from home, but also being subject to an environment that's brand new, of having to homeschool your children and juggle maybe you and your spouse needing to have time to be on a conference call while the other one's looking after the pets or your kids or accounting with other things going on. It's been a pretty interesting transformation. It's pretty wild how, the first week people are apologizing for their kid talking or walking into a video, to now, people are bringing their children into the call on purpose, and it's building this sense of community, and all the while in that sense of affirmation, not only making it be okay that those distractions are there, that they're real, but more celebrating them and say, wow, like, I know you had to watch your daughter this morning and you crushed that meeting, kind of like you said. That's an unprecedented success in something that we never thought we'd need to do, and is definitely worth celebrating for sure.
It makes sense as a starting point to me, because I think our natural impulses, I know mine is to tackle the most dire practical things, which like oftentimes, at least for me, didn't involve thinking about other people or the relationships with my colleagues. It was like, how do we pivot the business? How do we get the right softwares we need to be able to handle this? And it's hard to come out of that state where you're just trying to think of practical solution in this state of high stress and overlook the importance of the relationships and keeping the team together. And in really obvious ways, we are now separated. And it's important. Like, you guys have matching headsets, apparently. Things like that are helpful to be able to have communication and stay connected. But something like affirmation is what actually seems to bring that sense of community and camaraderie and teamwork that maybe you had back at the office, maybe you had when things were going a little more peacefully, into this chaotic, disparate, physically separated time. It's like bringing the band back together.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I never imagined that I would be having a virtual happy hour with my team where we're holding a beer up to the camera to try to blow off some steam and build some kind of separation from work and home. Also, some of the affirmation that comes in, it can come from, on the surface, something that appears to be of a micromanaging concept, right? Like, so one of the things that I've done is created a daily stand up with my teams. And, that's kind of the replacement of the drive by and say, hey, how are you doing today? Are you struggling with anything? Are you blocked? How can I clear your plate? So what could otherwise and sometimes be perceived as, hey, we're checking in for 15 minutes together every day. You don't trust that we can get our work done, instead becomes one of those platforms for affirmation and celebration of the little wins and successes, and to just have some time to connect. People can share that quick 2-minute story of how, their 3-year-old ran by without her diaper on behind their Skype meeting or whatever it may be, and just be able to have those opportunities to be human and connect as humans instead of just, a voice on the other side of the phone call.
So, let's maybe demonstrate this a bit, because when you think of, I think affirmations happen naturally a lot of the time, but if we're trying to be more deliberate about it, I think we need to break down what that can look like. So, Emilio, let's put you on the spot. Give an example. You can pick who you want to do this to. Give an example to one of us of an affirmation that's not done well, and then an affirmation that is done well. And let's unpack the components of each, maybe. So pick who you want to give which to.
Okay, Mike, here we go. But you're saying you want to do, you want me to give you an example, or you want to actually go through a role play?
Do affirm Mike, or either well or poorly for something legitimate.
I accept all forms of affirmation equally, so I just lay it on me.
So a poor affirmation is just this. It's well, first of all, it's not timely, meaning he did something well, and I tell him either a couple weeks later or at the end of a quarter when I'm doing his performance review. And
Emilio, this isn't role playing. This is you playing guru again. Let me try. Let me give you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Let me try. Hey, Emilio, do you remember last month when you helped organize that team lunch? Like, you did a pretty good job. Thanks for that.
Yeah, that's a pretty poor way of affirmation. Yeah, it's very generic. You didn't tell me why specifically we did a good job. So yeah, let me say it this way. Here's an example, right? If Mike does something well, whatever the case is, good job, Mike. Right? You get a lot of good jobs, or it's either it's very generic, it's not specific, or it's not timely. That's the best way I could say it: specificity and timeliness.
So now give Alex a really, really good form of affirmation.
Oh man, you guys are putting me on the spot.
It's fun.
I know. So let's do this. Here's a good form of affirmation where if I was trying to set up this specific podcast, what we're doing right now, the very fact that all of us are here together, it would have taken me an enormous amount of time. But Alex, his ability to put all this together very quickly, very organized, to give us direction, that number one, that's something that has removed a lot of angst from me because I don't have that ability. And so now I am reaping the benefits of his ability to do that. And I have an enormous amount of gratitude for him because he does that and he does it so well. So that's just something I'm thinking of literally that's happened here within the past 24 hours.
Thanks. And there's a bit of awkwardness to compliment someone in such a specific way. And there's a little bit of awkwardness to be on the receiving end of it, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's nice.
So yeah. And let me give you another example. So today I was in a meeting today, earlier today, and I'm in the meeting listening. I'm just a stakeholder, and the person facilitating that meeting is doing a great job. He's dealing with two specific, very nebulous topics. And the way he's negotiating these topics, and there's about 10 or 12 people on the phone from different functions, and he is slowly just decomposing it, making it very clear, and now aligning everybody. And I'm literally, as he's doing it, I am creating a Slack message and telling him what he's doing, the very fact that he's doing it now, and then why it's so effective for me. Right? Because I can't speak on behalf of Mike, or I can't speak on behalf of Alex on what it's doing for you. But I can speak on the fact that, hey, what you're doing is really working well for me. And this is how it's working well for me. Right? Because that's a fact. Everything else is being presumptuous, and it's very timely. Right? So now I haven't missed a moment. Because at the end of the day, right, I'm not going to remember. I'm like, even now, I can't quite exactly remember everything that went on in that meeting. But at that very moment, it's resonating, and that's the best type of feedback that you can give. Is very specific. And the other part is not just the fact that it's generic. It's the fact that a lot of times we want to, because we have this kind of homogenous nature to us. We want everyone to feel equally good. So when a group does something, we say, hey, great job, group. And that's fine. But that has shown there's evidence that doesn't really resonate with people, right? You really want to be specific on what that person's doing, because the other person now interprets that and says, wow, this person's really taking the time to do this. They really notice that. And that, people really like that, man. They really dig it.
So maybe that's the challenge to people hearing this and seeing this is don't let those moments pass. When you start seeing them tomorrow, someone does something that you appreciate or they exceeded your expectations, just dive right in and let them know. Emilio, can that be texted, Slacked, written, spoken, videoed?
Oh yeah. It doesn't. Yeah, the mode isn't what really matters. It's a form of what they call positive empathy, right? Because empathy, the moment someone talks about empathy, it's got a positive connotation to it, but immediately people are thinking about, oh, I'm empathizing with something bad you're going through, right? And you're kind of stepping in a gap and really trying to, vicariously experience what they're going through. But positive empathy is different. That's actually, and it's shown it's just as hard or even harder, because it is actually, so it would be like something's going really well for Mike here. Okay. And let's say we're colleagues, or let's say we're equals, and it's going really well. So this people don't want to admit this, but sometimes we feel envious or jealous, right? About maybe something that's going really well for you, which is interesting. But what I do is I can put that away and I can say, okay, man, Mike really likes this, and I know that this is his personality, and I kind of now tailor my praise to him in a very specific way. So it's almost me taking the time, knowing that, man, he's really I know that he's really going to accept this praise or this edification based on his personality, based on his likes in this way, right? And then and then expressing that, right? So I have to like come out of myself, come out of my ego. I have to really put myself in his shoes, and then just kind of like give him permission to express his joy, and then join in that joy with him. And that's harder for a lot of people. But this is the time when we need to do that, right? We need to engage in a lot of positive empathy.
Yeah, and I just want to pull on both those things. While we should be going out and doing this tomorrow, to kind of echo Emilio, this is going to be uncomfortable if it's something that you're not used to doing. Just like Alex kind of hinted at, he's like, to get such specific feedback is like kind of weird, and it's like you like it, but it's uncomfortable. And if you choose to give this specific feedback to your team, people are going to shrink a little bit because it's going to be a weird thing for them to be independently praised. But I can tell you from my experience, I have been practicing this, and I have seen my team turn the corner and start to lean in and say, wow, thank you. I really appreciate you recognizing me. I'm glad that that's working. I now know I can lean on, those techniques or those skills. Everybody just tells me keep up the good work. I haven't gotten a lot of, things to be able, either constructive feedback or criticism. In this case, it's constructive praise. It's that thing right there. Keep doing that because that really works for me. And it gets more comfortable. So, Alex says, lean in and do it. You're going to feel weird, but as a leader or as someone working to really keep your team engaged and focused in these tough times, push through that uncomfortable feeling, and you will definitely reap the benefits with increasing your team's engagement and satisfaction.
Yeah, just try to stay away from saying good for you.
Yeah, that's never adequate. Good for you.
Oh, you just got that promotion. Good for you.
Oh man, that's great. I know. Hey, and I wanted to go back to something you said at the how you were describing taking 2 minutes in these morning stand-ups that you're doing, Mike, just to talk about whatever, anything going on in their lives. I think it's important to note that specifically with remote work, you actually don't want to rush the informal interactions. Right, that where sometimes maybe if you're looking for efficiency or whatever the case is when you're working, maybe maybe that's different, But specifically with remote work, it's shown that the informal interactions are really good. You actually want to be proactive in setting those up. So actually, if you even set up 15 minutes where you're actually not talking about a specific work topic, that's actually a really good thing. And so that goes into the concept of, we're talking about affirmation. Right. One language for that would be, the concept of quality time, right? Not necessarily, being close to one another, but as much as like giving people attention. And that's something that people seek, especially in remote work. And I would say even more so now because they've been thrown into remote work without necessarily against their volition, right? It wasn't by their choice.
Yeah, so that makes sense. As we want, when we're in the office in a traditional setting, you want those short, efficient meetings because people are desperate to go grab a cup of coffee with their colleague or go take a walk over lunch with one of their friends and connect. So they want to get those meetings through as quick as they can to be able to have that interaction. And now we're starved for it, right? Your at home lunch is, you trying to keep your dog from taking a bite of your pizza instead of really connecting and having some of those informal moments. So that actually, it seems obvious when you say it, but it is something that I think a lot of teams are not taking advantage of, and it feels weird to schedule social time in a work environment, but that's seemingly almost what we're calling for here.
Yeah. And that's exactly why this is our starting point for this round of Project Rework, because we're all working separate. We're all more isolated than before. And while there are lots of practical things we're going to need to cover as Project Rework continues to unfold on all sorts of topics that are very tactical. The starting point right now is how to get people feeling connected, appreciated, like they're part of a team again. And that's going to be the way that we all adjust to this new this new work environment, and then we can start tackling those practical topics. So yeah, we're starting here: appreciation, quality time, building the team back up, feeling more connected with each other while we're all working from our couches or basements. So it's a good place to start, and it's not where I thought we'd be starting.
No, me neither. But if you also thinking about, forming that connection and look back at where Project Rework started, right? We were a Monday morning newsletter, really deep diving into a specific topic. And, in these times of isolation, we're now working to get in front of you all. And, look forward to following us on social media, through our website. We're going to be getting a lot of different types of content out to you. You can see our faces, you can hear our voices, you can laugh at Emilio's ugly hat like I do as often as I can. And still get some of those really in-depth articles that you're used to getting in your mailbox every week. So we're really excited for kind of this pivot of Project Rework, and we look forward to kind of sharing all of our gurus' findings with you to help you rethink work.
Yeah, I got to get one of those matching headsets.
Yeah, it must be like tech standard issue.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. Let me know who the guru is when you find it. When you find him,
I think I have to do like an extra. I can't. I got to point through Alex.
He's there.